mind, spirit, or mechanics, the quantum leap from void to being. Chapter: Exceptional Connectivity, Intuition, and the Continuum of Sensitivity. Not all brains are wired the same way. The basic structure, cortex, subcortex, cerebellum, brainstem, is shared across the human species, but the details of connectivity vary enormously. Which neurons connect to which, how strongly they connect, how many synapses link them, and how patterns of excitation and inhibition are arranged differ from person to person. These differences in wiring produce differences in perception, cognition, emotion, creativity, social sensitivity, and pattern recognition. Some variations give rise to talent, genius, or intuition. Others contribute to mental illness, and some produce experiences so unusual that cultures throughout history have interpreted them as contact with the divine, the supernatural, or another realm entirely. Understanding the neural basis of these variations helps explain why certain individuals have experiences that seem to defy ordinary explanation, and why societies have consistently interpreted such experiences in spiritual terms. Intuition, the ability to know something without knowing how you know it, is one of the most common and least understood of these exceptional capacities. William James described intuition as rapid unconscious inference. The brain integrates vast amounts of information below awareness and delivers the result as a feeling of rightness, a hunch, a gut sense. Modern neuroscience supports this view and adds detail. Intuitive judgments rely on implicit learning, the brain's ability to extract statistical patterns from experience without conscious effort. These patterns form internal models that generate fast, accurate predictions in familiar situations. These predictions reach consciousness not as explicit reasoning but as feelings, images, or bodily sensations. The neural systems involved include the insular cortex, which integrates internal and external signals, the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, involved in value-based decisions and somatic markers, and the basal ganglia, involved in implicit learning and pattern recognition. Exceptional intuition depends on the extent and efficiency of neural connectivity, how broadly and effectively information from different brain regions is integrated. Individuals with denser or more widely distributed connectivity can access more information, detect subtler patterns, and generate more accurate predictions. This variation arises from genetics, development, and training. Musicians develop strong connections between auditory and motor cortices, allowing them to hear music and feel it in their hands. Chess masters develop dense links between visual areas and memory systems, enabling them to see the right move instantly. Experienced clinicians develop connections between perceptual systems and vast implicit knowledge bases, allowing them to sense a diagnosis before tests confirm it. At the far end of the connectivity spectrum are individuals whose neural architecture produces experiences qualitatively different from the norm. Synesthesia, the involuntary blending of senses, such as seeing colors when hearing sounds or tasting shapes, results from atypical cross-wiring between sensory cortices and affects 2 to 4% of people. Synesthetes often report heightened creativity, stronger memory, and richer subjective experience. Savant abilities, extraordinary skills in areas like calendar calculation, music, or art, often alongside developmental disabilities, are linked to unusual connectivity patterns, including reduced inhibition and increased local connectivity. These cases suggest that the brain has extraordinary computational capacities normally constrained by inhibitory circuits. When those constraints loosen, through congenital variation, injury, or altered states, remarkable abilities can emerge. A key concept here is latent inhibition, the brain's tendency to filter out familiar, irrelevant stimuli. This filtering, mediated by dopaminergic circuits in the striatum and prefrontal cortex, is essential for functioning. Without it, the brain would be overwhelmed. Individuals with reduced latent inhibition, whether due to genetics, psychoactive substances, meditation, or other factors, experience the world as more vivid, detailed, and interconnected. They notice what others overlook. They make unusual connections. They perceive patterns others dismiss as noise. This can be a gift, the basis of creativity, insight, and artistic vision, or a burden, leading to overwhelm, confusion, and difficulty distinguishing signal from noise, as seen in certain psychotic states. This forms a continuum of sensitivity. At one end is the highly filtered, efficiently modular brain, fast, reliable, but less attuned to subtlety. At the other is the highly permeable, broadly connected brain, rich in detail but prone to overload. Most people fall somewhere in between. Where an individual lands depends on genetics, development, experience, and the current state of neuromodulators like dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, and acetylcholine. The crucial factor determining whether high sensitivity leads to genius or madness, prophecy or psychosis, is not sensitivity itself but the capacity for integration and regulation, the ability to organize the flood of information into coherent patterns rather than being overwhelmed by it. This framework sheds light on cultural interpretations of exceptional sensitivity. In many indigenous cultures, shamans are individuals who have undergone what might be described clinically as a psychotic break, a temporary dissolution of ordinary reality involving visions, voices, and a disrupted sense of self, but who are supported by their community in integrating the experience. The shamanic initiation is a controlled destabilization of the attractor landscape followed by reorganization into a more connected configuration. The Greek oracles, such as the Pythia at Delphi, entered altered states in which they received divine messages. Modern interpretations suggest these states may have been induced by gases, hyperventilation, or other means of altering brain chemistry and reducing filtering. Prophets in the Abrahamic traditions, Moses, Elijah, Muhammad, Christian mystics, describe experiences involving visions, voices, dissolution of boundaries, and union with the divine. These experiences are real states of the brain, producing real changes in perception and behavior. The question is not whether they occur, but how to understand them, as supernatural contact or as the product of atypical neural connectivity operating under reduced filtering and heightened integration. The default mode network, DMN, plays a central role in this picture. The DMN, including the medial prefrontal cortex, posterior cingulate cortex, precuneus, and angular gyrus, is active during rest, self-reflection, and mind-wandering. It supports the narrative self, the ongoing story of who we are. When the DMN is active, the sense of self is strong and coherent. When it is disrupted, by meditation, psychedelics, extreme stress, or certain injuries, the sense of self loosens or dissolves, producing experiences ranging from mildly unusual to profoundly transformative. Research suggests that individuals with more variable or easily disrupted DMN activity may be more prone to both mystical experiences and psychotic episodes. The same neural architecture that opens the door to transcendence can also open the door to disintegration. The difference lies not in the wiring itself but in the individual's capacity for regulation and integration.